You're listening to The Next Chapter is Hers, a podcast about healing, growth, and becoming the main character of your life. We are your hosts, Hannah
and Heather, sisters, storytellers, and your weekly hype women.
Welcome back, main characters. Episode 2. Here we go. Welcome back, main characters. It has already been a little bit of a hectic day, 20 minutes in, and we are now finally starting to record after getting everything set up, but I feel good.
Yeah, I do too.
Good.
Today is all about Hannah.
All about me, baby.
We're going to learn about you and your business and your why and what you put out into the world and what you teach women every day with your amazingness.
We're going to have to remove all those pauses again. We need to make sure that before we speak, we have like a fluent.
No, guys, I process
slowly. This is going to be interesting. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. So should we just jump right in or?
Yeah.
How are your chickens?
Oh my God.
Kidding.
I do have chickens.
Yep.
We'll let everyone know because we're going to do a greenhouse podcast episode.
We were going to film from the greenhouse today, but we decided that ripping all of our stuff down for episode 2 probably wasn't a great idea considering we
just got everything working for episode 1. But baby, we're back. We are ready.
So we decided to get a couple more in-studio episodes under our belt, and then we'll do a tear-down tour, and we'll go to the greenhouse.
Yeah. The greenhouse, the studio. I feel like that's like a really good way to also see inside of my brain. Like, look at all the places I've designed. We're in my dining room currently.
Yeah.
Or what used to be my dining room.
It's now the podcast space.
It's now the podcast space.
So learning about you today, I've got some questions to ask.
Okay. This is when you get to work on your interview skills.
All right, Hannah, how about we start with what made you feel like there was something missing in the world that you needed to create this space, this space for women?
I thought that I would have like instant answers for everything, but my brain just went in like 500 different directions. I feel like I want to start off by saying that I feel like going back, my earliest memories. I feel like we grew up in a family that was very focused on diet culture and gym, and we were always on diets.
None of our family went to the gym. It was just...
We just paid the fat tax at the gym membership, basically. We all had gym memberships and never went.
Right.
And I feel like growing up with 2 older sisters was eye-opening. A mom that never really wore jewelry or anything like that. Like, self-care was not taught to us in our family. We were taught to care for others.
Yes.
So right off the rip, I feel like when I was younger, I just wanted more self-love. And I think I craved to see more self-love from the people that I loved the most around me. And hearing people like nitpick themselves or tear themselves down or talk badly about themselves was just so eye-opening at such a young age because I had to look in the mirror at one point. And I remember saying to myself, am I supposed to hate my body too? And it was like a moment where I think at a very young age, it just kind of clicked to me that like, oh, maybe I should be poking at my tummy. Maybe I should be poking at my arms. Maybe when I look in the mirror, I need to stand up a little bit straighter. Like all these little things that were kind of coming into my brain at such a young age, I remember probably it was like 7 or 8. Like we were already at the George's Hill house. And I honestly think I was standing in like your vanity mirror in your room. I broke into someone's room. I lived in the closet, so I didn't have my own room. We'll get to that another time. But I was standing in someone's mirror looking at myself, just asking myself that question, like, am I supposed to hate myself?
That's
and deep. I know. This really was rooted in like deep questions to myself at a young age.
That is something that, even though I have a lot of really negative feelings around my body, that's something that I'm really trying to not make a big deal about it in front of my now almost 4-year-old daughter. Because again, like you said, we were raised in a house that, you know, your body image was very important, and it was almost more important than anything else.
We had to look cute.
And it came from a place of love because our mom struggled with her weight and body acceptance. It was definitely not malicious. I think it was definitely came from a place of her just wanting to make sure that like the world was
kinder to us.
Yeah. You know, if you look a certain way, you don't get picked on, or if you look a certain way, you get picked for dances, or, you know, you don't get overlooked. And I mean, it still didn't matter because I know you had bullies in high school and you looked like Taylor Swift. That's definitely one of the things that I'm really, really trying to be conscious of, is that, you know, I'm on a weight loss medication and I'm trying to lose weight. And so my daughter sees me weigh myself. I try not to react negatively to the scale. And Harlow loves to jump on the scale. And I'm like, 37 pounds, great job. You know, I encourage her. I don't make it a scary place for her to be, but I can totally understand where just living in a family that,
just being the youngest, you know how much like little ones are always looking up to us.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like the people that I had to look up to in my life growing up was you, Mom, and Emily.
And the terrible 2000 body culture.
Yeah.
Like people saying, you know,
Tyra Banks.
125 pound Jessica Simpson is so fat. Like Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera. Like that's what you saw growing up.
I remember I actually have a picture of myself in this little bikini. The mom was like, wear it while you're cute and little. And it was like red with little polka dots. And I remember staring at myself in the mirror, like pinching my belly. And I mean, if you see a picture of me as a child, my dad called me a fence post, like Hannah Banana fence post. I was just like a little wafy, flat, little taller for my age, I feel like, at that like 7 to 10 range.
You're still pretty flat, although curvy, like on the sides. You have a very flat.
Yeah, but I got them titties and ass, you know? Ass and titties, ass and titties. I just feel like at such a young age, when you're watching that, it makes you question yourself, right? And then when you enter school and you enter middle school, and now you have Hollister and Abercrombie, the 2-inch zippers seam on some things, the low rise, you're running around recess and you know,
everybody's
boys are starting to literally, but everyone's starting to pick on each other and say like, oh, look at what she's wearing. You know, body image is taught at such a young age. Like we are so pure. And at one point, everything just turns to shit because everyone just kind of commingles together with all their image issues. And it just got harder. And I think I didn't realize that that was living inside of me probably until I was leaving high school and I finally could have a moment to think for myself. I did not go to college, so I did not have the college influence to continue that. And I think that's actually a big thing that changed for me, was the fact that I did not have to be the hottest girl in college. I didn't have to worry about joining a frat or whatever it's called. You know, there's so many moments that I feel like it could have really been more detrimental. And I was able to surround myself instead with artists, boudoir photographers. Like right off the rip, I was meeting people from different communities and cliques and being welcomed into an area that was so body friendly. And it was before that body positivity movement happened.
Yeah.
But it was something that was living inside of me that I was already very conscious of, already trying to break at such a young age. In the last episode, right? Like we talked about how we lived very different lives and took very different paths. And I feel like I was able to take a path that was less stepped on, I guess. And so it allowed me to kind of root around all those existing issues and start healing them earlier.
You've always also been very interested in art in all forms, painting and drawing and music and all that kind of stuff. And I know that you're really good at seeing bodies as art form. One of my favorite images that we have in the studio is a woman laying kind of on her side. She's contorted in a way that accentuates her side rolls. And it's one of those things that like most women would stand in the mirror and they would look at their side rolls and they would say, ew, I need to put on a corset. I need to put on some shapewear. I need liposuction. But this image, the way that it's lit and the shadows dance across her body and the way that the peaks of the rolls are just gently highlighted and the way like the curve of her back is, the image is breathtaking. And it's one of those things that when I look at it, I say to myself, how can I love something in somebody else's body so much and then hate it in my own? And
which is so common for people to say, by the way.
So common. I do it all the time. I look at these plus size influencers and they're dressing a certain way. And I think it really comes down to confidence. But, you know, and I'm like, why can't I be that girl? Why can't I be her? And then you guys will be like, you could be.
I don't know if I want to say it's confidence. I feel like it's a caliber of self-worth. Confidence can be faked. Self-worth can't. Right? And that took me a long time to realize, because sometimes you have to fake the confidence until the self-worth comes, because as long as you can fake it, you can hold yourself to a higher power, even if you don't necessarily believe it. And then something starts tricking your brain every single day because you're treating yourself differently. Other people around you start treating yourself differently. And when you start getting treated differently by other people, that's when you no longer accept the bullshit.
Right.
And when you no longer accept the bullshit, you are unstoppable. Like, that's where power comes from. And it's something that I have to kind of explain that to a lot of women at times when they're coming in for their shoots, because I'm not always confident. I don't always feel good in my skin. I do still nitpick at myself. And there's days where, especially in like earlier days when I started the studio and I started my business, I felt like an imposter sometimes because I was preaching self-love and preaching to love your body. And then there'd be days I'd go home and I would hate myself too. And it's like, I fucking get it. But you know what? I'm never going to always be 100% happy with my body, but I'm always going to know my worth. And I'm always going to demand more from people and demand more from myself, because this is my life. I am the main character of it. And there's no person or thing that is going to stop me from living my life to the fullest. And that is what keeps me wanting to stay happy, wanting to stay healthy, wanting to care for myself in ways that self-love gives to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that kind of answered my next question, which was, what were you craving in your own life, in your own healing, that led you to create your business, Hannah Rachael Photography?
It does, but now I feel like I can take a totally different route with this question. Because at the time when I started my business, when I decided to finally open the studio door, I was really craving love from other people. I think when I started my studio, I was starting to get into a dark place in my existing relationship. So I was looking for exterior validation, and I wasn't getting that validation from the person that I was with at the time. So instead of sitting in the darkness, I basically like opened a room and offered friends to come in and to get my exterior validation from my business and from my clients. I absolutely went manic starting my business. I poured my heart and soul into it. Loneliness can do crazy things to us sometimes. And I feel like I built this business because I wanted other people to no longer feel lonely, because I felt so lonely.
That's deep.
And I wanted people to feel beautiful because I didn't feel beautiful. And part of me was thinking, if I could fix them, it would fix me. And in a way it did, right? Like years later, I am reaping the benefits of my early stages of the business. And one of the things I actually thought about, right? And I think like I can use Taylor Swift as an example really quick. She became famous writing heartbreak songs. So her passion, her drive came from the darkest place of her life. So in her darkest moment, she was able to create art with it, because that's how she felt. Like every artist or painter or famous sculptor, they, a lot of times in their darkest parts, were able to create their masterpieces.
Yeah, and then cut off their ears.
Yeah. And then give it to their loves. What's more dreamy than that? But that was my studio. My studio was my escape. My studio was my exterior validation. My studio was my safe place. And I just wanted to invite other people into it and heal those so that they didn't have to feel the way that I felt.
Powerful.
I know. Sometimes I'm deep. Sometimes I'm singing ass and titties.
Obviously, I know you inside and out because I remember you coming home from the hospital and being born. But for our listeners that don't know you as well, who were you before you picked up a camera?
Who was I? I was a shell of a human. I was active, middle school, high school. I picked up a camera the beginning of my senior year.
Photography class.
I took a film class. We learned to do all the developing. We used all the deck stalls and all the chemicals and everything like that. And that was just kind of crazy because, like you said, I loved art.
Mm-hmm.
I loved painting. I've got thousands of sketchbooks and, several different artistic mediums that I have here, but I never really had the skill to create what I wanted to with pencils and paints and stuff like that. So I think when you had gone into photography, you started taking pictures of me at a young age. It was something that a medium I already knew existed.
That was my photography class in senior year.
Yeah, that's right.
So 10 years If you guys listen to our first episode, you'll know Hannah and I are 10 years apart. So when I was like 16, I was taking my photography class. Hannah was my little muse. And so I would...
Should we insert another photo right here of me in the fairy costume?
I would photograph my little baby sister Hannah, and she would be one of my subjects for my photography class
for the next 10 years, because we were acting and you took all of my
so
headshots.
Then I was taking headshots, I was taking acting photos, I was taking senior portraits, and I eventually led into shooting weddings.
Used your film camera for the class.
Yeah. Because you really liked photography, though, after you graduated high school, you tagged along with me to some weddings, and we shot weddings together for a little while.
Yeah. I was still in high school or fresh out of high school when I shot your first wedding.
Yeah.
It was that summer.
Yeah. They had a spring wedding, but you were really interested in photography. And I was like, hey, I have a friend's wedding whom I'm shooting, and I'm sure she would be totally down if you tagged along, and like whatever pictures you took that came out good, we could just give her. And you were like, okay. And
literally put a camera in my hands. Yeah. We drove there, and her maid of honor was the one that hired me for her wedding on the spot the next year. Mm-hmm. And I shot her boudoir session in my spare bedroom. And that was back in 2011.
Yeah. She asked you, like, back then, boudoir,
it was like taboo.
Yeah. Boudoir wasn't really like the thing. And she kind of was like, hey,
I kind of want to do something secret for my husband.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's fucking do it. Went home, searched Pinterest, threw a white blanket on the ground in my spare bedroom apartment, and I was like, come on down to Waterbury.
So that's how it started. It was literally that wedding that kind of got you into the wedding game, and then that bride that got you into the boudoir game.
And that's kind of why I say sometimes that I feel like this career chose me. Like everything in life has led me to this. And I think that's why I also found myself so early on, because I saw such a clear path for the direction I wanted to go in. And even though it was scary and different, you know, everybody at that time would tell you, don't be a photographer. You're going to be a starving artist forever. And I was like, no, there's got to be a way to like make this work.
So you shot weddings with me for like 3 years.
Yep. I hated it.
Sick and tired of giving away your weekends and your nights.
When I should have been in college partying every weekend. Right, I was shooting weddings.
You were a little kid. I mean, like honestly, looking back on that, 18, 19, 20 years old, you were a young kid and you had no nights and weekends.
No. And I waitress in the morning.
Yeah. It was a rough road.
I was a hard worker.
You've always been a hard worker.
Yeah, I'm definitely still a hard worker. Let's not put that in the past.
Yeah. If Hannah is not like actively working, like photographing something, starting a podcast, starting a traveling photography business, teaching, traveling to see her man in Tennessee.
Patreon.
She's like climbing a ladder on her roof, like being like, oh, you roofing guys, you need an extra hand? Yeah, okay, I'll come up there and help you roof. Yeah, let's build a greenhouse, but like I'll do all the framing. I gotta install a garden today. Like Hannah is
gotta put some sheetrock in my bathroom next week and do the railings.
Like legit the handiest handyman and the hardest working person I know. Like literally.
They don't call me Bob the Builder for no reason. I earned that name.
You exhaust me. I don't do anything in honor of you doing everything. I like wake up with my toddler at 11 a.m. just like, yeah.
I'm changing dad's brakes outside.
Yeah. So you are definitely the hardest working person I know. So don't even put that out in the world. What about the first time that you realized that, you know, we were talking about you creating art with a medium that was different than painting and drawing and, you know, picking up that camera and realizing that you could really create more than just images. When was the first time that you realized that you could really create
art?
Yeah.
I feel like there's two things that come to my brain. I feel like I want to go back one step before that camera went into my hand and talk about the very first time that I did a live nude drawing class. And it was like not full frontal or anything. Like I just remember I had gone to an art school for middle school, and one of the teachers had brought in a live model for us to sketch. And it was part of our like, I was only in 7th grade.
Wait, nude?
Yeah. Well, they were, their like junk was covered, but they were in like flowy things, and they would sit on boxes and we could paint them and draw them and use whatever mediums we wanted. So I remember trying to sketch that body, and I was getting frustrated at myself because my skill level was not how I wanted it to look.
At 7th grade.
At 7th grade.
You should be really mad at yourself.
The perfectionism, OCD, it's coming right back out in me. Started at a young age. But I just remember like being mad at myself that I couldn't get it to look the way that I wanted to. And I think I was comparing myself to my older brother, who was also really great at art at the time. And he had crazy good sketchbooks, and it was very inspiring for me to watch him. He drew animals and lions and figures. Do you remember this?
I do. I literally can't draw to save my life. Like if someone
Neither
was
can
like...
Emily, so I don't know where we both got it from. But I just remember being so inspired by him. I was so mad at myself. I wasn't as good as him. So I decided, you know, once that camera hit my hand that senior year, and our projects and homework was literally take pictures, experiment, be weird. There were thousands of photos that I took with like weird costumes and outside and
photograph lines and photograph shadows.
And because it was film and it was only black and white, I was able to focus on seeing the light over everything else. And then I just kind of grew. And I remember taking this one photo of this girl. I think her name was Sam. It was in front of a tree at the base of our driveway. I carved a heart into the tree. It was so cheesy. And I remember taking that portrait and looking down when I printed it, and it's like floating in the bucket. And I was like, holy shit, this is a beautiful picture of her. And it was that moment right there. I was like, great. What I saw, what I wanted it to look like, I could make it look like that. And instantly just started taking pictures right after that. Never looked back.
When was it that you realized that you could take that art that you were creating and really witness the people behind that? I feel like you capture so much of people's like beings, their souls in your images. When do you think that you learned that?
I think that the very first boudoir that I shot was so powerful for me in two ways. Now, at this point, we had done a year of weddings already together. I had done newborns. I had done...
You hustled.
Portrait sessions. I had done everything because I wanted to try everything. I was on racetracks. There was nothing that I haven't photographed at this point.
Except for naked ladies.
At this point, correct. I was confused. I was like, that's all I photograph. I'm confused. This was the first boudoir session that I had shot with someone who reminded me a lot of my sisters, my family. She was self-conscious. She was nervous. She was stepping out of her comfort zone. It was funny. It was awkward. We were giggling. We were, you know, trying to make it good. And it felt like two friends like collaborating on something because I had no clue what I was doing yet. But I remember her being self-conscious. And once I showed her the photo, she was like, holy shit, that's me. And it was in that moment that she didn't have anything bad to say about herself. And it clicked. And I was like, fuck, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. And within that moment, I knew it. Fast forward a couple months later, it's her wedding day. She decided to do a first look. And she asked me if I could hand the album to him before she saw him. So I am taking pictures at this wedding.
I remember this. I was actually going to ask you to lead up to this if you weren't going there already.
Yeah. So I remember getting the album from her, taking pictures of him from behind, walking back in front of him, and I tapped him on the shoulder and handed him the album. And he giggled and he was like, oh, what is this? You know, he's a tough firefighter dude. And I handed him the album and I said, open it up. It's just a gift from the bride. And he starts looking at the photos and he looks up at me like, oh my God, does she know what I'm looking at right now? Did she open this? I think he knew I took the photos at the end, but he was like, oh my God, what is happening? And I watched someone who loved their partner so much, knew their partner was self-conscious, knew that this was something very scary for them to do. And I watched this man literally start sobbing, staring at this book. And as he hit the last page, she was naked with his nameplate from the firefighting jacket across her chest. And he started sobbing and she tapped his shoulder and he turned around and I watched him fall to his knees and they were just holding each other. And it was like, fuck, number two. Because I watched not only one, but two people see a body as art that they loved so much. And it was the most impactful thing in my life. And I think that was the day I was like, I am never shooting weddings again. Don't book me on anything.
Except for you shot them for
After
2 more
this-
years.
Yeah, because I was already booked out for 2 years. But I just remember that being the moment. Like, I don't want anything to do with anything other than boudoir. This is the impact that I've been craving and the exterior validation that I knew I needed. I needed to help people, and that healed a part of me to do that.
Okay, so you started shooting boudoir in your little apartment bedroom.
Like 2012. Mind you, I'm 18 at the time. I'm not even like 21, able to drink yet.
You were barely
even allowed to be shooting boudoir.
Yeah. What did building this space mean to you in the beginning? Was there a moment that you said, this is it, this is what I need, this is what I want? I remember you getting your studio. I remember you calling me the night you signed the lease.
Crying, probably. It's very on brand for me.
And you said, I'm so nervous. What if I fail? And I said, but what if you don't? And here we are.
I think when it came time for me to open the studio, it was a heavy moment of trust in myself. It was me just starting to realize my self-worth. Like, am I worthy of doing this? Do I deserve to do this? Are people going to want to book me? Are people going to...
Because it was still kind of like not the norm. Even still, I feel like some people are like, you say, oh, I'm a boudoir photographer. And they're like, what's that? And you're like, naked ladies. I shoot nudies. But I mean, like, back then, it was still like...
hiding magazines under the bed.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about it.
No.
It wasn't popular. It wasn't searchable. There wasn't anything on Pinterest yet. I knew I needed a studio for a few reasons. One of it being I knew I needed a safe place for people to be vulnerable, because at that time when I started the studio, I myself did not even have a safe space to be vulnerable. I was so eager to heal myself this way, to manically work and heal others, to heal myself, that's the direction that I took with it. Mm-hmm. So when it came time for me to open the studio, it wasn't me necessarily looking for a place to have pretty pictures. It really boiled down to, I need a safe space to create. It's no different to me than, an artist having their studio where they can have everything that they need in one spot and just get away from the reality of the world and escape in their own little bubble. And that's what my studio became. It was created by me, for my art. And it was the first place that I could honestly decorate how I wanted to. Again, going way back in time to like little baby Hannah, right? We grew up in rentals my entire life. I didn't really have a bedroom growing up. We were a family of 4.
Yep.
In a
3-bedroom house.
3-bedroom house.
Well, we were 4 kids plus our parents.
Right. And everybody had their space. Everybody was older than me. Everybody was ready to have their own space. I wanted my own space, but I
shared
lived
a bedroom with Emily, but
my bully. And then I came home one day and she pushed my twin bed with her twin bed and said, get out. This is my room now.
Right.
She was hitting high school. She wanted privacy. And I get it. If I was the older sibling, I probably would have done the same thing. Moral of the story, I didn't have a bedroom or a place to call my own until I was probably 14 when you moved out.
So you lived in the little
walk-in closet of my parents' bedroom.
I mean, it was kind of more like a dressing suite.
Yeah, because there was no room for an actual closet.
Yeah.
It was like a pass-through hallway. Enter picture. Basically, it was a room big enough for you to fit a dresser in.
You lived in like a loft bed, like double stack loft bed now with like drawers underneath and a twin size mattress on top.
You're making it sound really, really good, but there also was just a shower curtain as a wall to separate me from my parents getting up every night.
Yeah, so like when my dad would walk through the room to the bathroom.
Yeah. So take the luxury version that Heather's making it sound and my version and put it together. We're going to find a picture. We have to at this point. It was like a little space for myself, but
also not much space at all.
Basically, at a young age, I was just looking for my own space and I wanted to decorate and I wanted to create And one of the outlets that I loved the most was interior design. I loved making and creating art in pretty much any way that I could. Like I had mannequins and I was developing clothing at a young age. Like I just craved art. I craved my own space. I craved creating areas that I just loved being in.
Starting a business at such a young age and being as headstrong and all in that you were. I know that you put everything that you have into, I mean, literally everything you have into like whatever project you're doing. What did diving headfirst into this business and putting your all into it cost you emotionally, personally? Were there things that you feel like it took from you?
I feel like, honestly, this business and pouring myself into it at such an early age cost me a lot. You know, I feel like it's cost me friendships because my priorities changed at such a young age that instead of going out, getting drunk on the weekends, I was face deep in a laptop editing or taking on sessions.
I feel that.
I think that it cost me relationships because I was so quick to turn my brain off in a relationship if I was feeling a certain way or, again, needing that external validation, that I was able to focus on my business and pour everything I had into that because that felt like the only thing that was giving me excitement and validation and honestly love back, right? Like nothing is better than, as you know, getting gold stars. And I think that's something that I crave as well as you.
I live life through gold stars. That's like my,
love language.
Love delivery service is just give me gold stars, please.
Yeah. So I think I lost friendships. I think I lost relationships. I feel like I lost a little bit of like my youth because I was just working as much as I could. But I feel like everything that I lost came back tenfold in the future. I learned how to create and foster relationships through my business that I don't think I would have known how to communicate maybe later on. So I think that everything that I lost back then, I now am so grateful for and have just been able to overflow with now.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to quit?
All the fucking time. Every single day. Every single day I think I want to quit because owning a business is hard. I like to say that I retired at 18 years old. As soon as that camera went into my hands, I was like, oh, I'm never working for corporate. I'm never going to work a regular 9 to 5. I think it took me a couple of years for me to really support myself with my own business and really leave. So maybe like technically I retired at 22. I think that's when the studio opened, right?
Probably.
What year are we in?
2025.
2025, 2012, 2015.
13 years.
Holy fuck. That's a long ass time. We're past. Oh my God. Remember when you said, what have you lost? And I said, my youth. It's gone.
Wait, when you're editing this section, I would like you to put those math equations
spinning above my head.
Above your head. Yeah, so it's 2025 and you started in 2012. So that means you've been doing this for 13 years, right?
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Yep.
Do you think that there are parts of you that you've lost giving so much to others?
I think there was a time where I was giving more than I should have. I think as you age, you understand boundaries better, which allows you to take a step back and understand that you can't give everything that you want to give in that moment. So you set a boundary for yourself and it gets easier as you go.
What has the studio given back to you that you didn't know that you needed?
My studio has given me everything. My studio has given the house that we're in right now. My studio has given me the people that are around me. My studio has given me the relationships that are in my life. Some of my best friends I met through the photography industry. You know, there's so many things that this dream and chasing it in my studio have given to me more than I think I even deserve some days. I feel like there's some days that I am so grateful and so in love with all that my studio and all that my business has given me. And the main thing being freedom. I worked as hard as I did so that I could live a different life in the future. And I think I could honestly say that I'm living everyone's dream life right now. Like I have the freedom to see my friends on random days. I'm working myself to the bone, but at the end of the day, like I have the freedom to catch a flight and go see my man in Nashville. Like, and when I'm in Nashville, I can pick up a camera and capture more shoots down there. Like, photography and the studio have opened a door for me that I don't think I ever imagined taking as far as it has. And even now sitting on this podcast is like feels surreal, because who knew that photography could even bring me here? I'm thankful that I have been able to create art in places and on social media that have created a little bit of a following for me so that I can do all these things. And it's nice because when you work so hard and you're able to see the benefit, it makes it all worth it. Like right away, you don't know what it's going to bring. You're working so hard because it's something that you want and you're craving. And it's really nice to know that like 10 years down the road, it's going to all work out. You just got to get to that 10-year mark in business. Once you pass that, then you have to reinvent and start your business completely over.
You have to start a podcast.
You think you're doing great, and then you have to play catch up again.
I know that you mentioned that your studio and your business cost you a lot of things. It cost you friendships and relationships. And I know that over the last couple of years, you've had a lot of transitions in your personal life. And I don't know if one day we'll touch on some of those, but how has watching other women find themselves help you find yourself again?
We touched on this a little bit on our first episode, how the more you get to know somebody and the more that somebody lets you in, the more you're able to find out about yourself. And when you have those deep and intimate conversations with other people, it makes you ask yourself those same questions. And when you hear their answers, you compare them to your answers. And so I think that a lot of these times when I'm working with women and they are falling back in love with themselves, it allows me to show them the way that I see them. And it makes me understand that people view me that same way. Just like a little kid, they always have someone to look up to. And I think it's so powerful when you can give that gift to somebody else and it kind of makes you feel like it's your superpower.
You're really good at that. You really have a way of giving the women that come in the studio almost a different lens to look at themselves through.
Absolutely.
And it's not because you edit them in Photoshop, and it's not because you distort their view. You don't cake them in makeup and make them, it's not like a glamour shot situation. Back in the 80s, you used to go in and get covered in makeup and get a crazy blowout and cover yourself in feathers. And that was your like alter ego. I feel like the women that come into the studio, you speak to them in a way that allows them to be more vulnerable with themselves. I think that you open yourself in a way that allows them to see a different part of themselves, and you photograph them in a way that highlights parts of their bodies. Sometimes I know in our questionnaire, we ask people, like, are there parts of your body that you want to minimize or shy away from? But I feel like you ask that question as the opportunity to show those people
that part of them is still beautiful.
Right. I think that when people think that they're answering that question, you're intentionally going to hide their belly or hide their inner thighs or hide their arms. But you want to photograph those parts of them
and show them that they're beautiful
in a way that they will look at that and say, wow, I usually hate my belly, but it looks so good here. Or, man, I don't usually like my arms, but for some reason they don't bother me in this image. And I think that whole experience like softens people's perceptions about themselves. And like you said, it lets you see yourself through a different lens. And it lets you kind of like say like, this is the lens that other people see me through. And so I don't feel like I have to feel bad about these parts. I know that before our session together, my first session, I hadn't worn shorts in like 25 years.
Yep.
Since I was like 14 years old. Because I was like, I have fat thighs. Nobody needs to see my legs. So I just was fucking hot all the time in the summer wearing pants. It's like nobody cares about that, first of all. But then, doing a boudoir session and being like, I can look at myself for other things. I remember COVID. I was like, I'm just going to buy jean shorts. And I was so happy. And I lived in shorts that summer. And then I was like, I'm going to go out in public in shorts. And then I was like, I'm just going to wear shorts all the time in the summer. And now I'm like, oh, it's like April 1st and it's like 65 degrees outside.
Rompers.
You show people a different part of themselves and a softer way to see themselves. And it really is life-changing. It really does change the way people feel about themselves.
See, I'm a little sad you called out the questionnaire because now people know my secret.
Shit.
I think this is what brings it all the way back full circle to the beginning. Like young Hannah really falling in love with art because I was able to look up to sculptors. I was able to look up to all these things that like were celebrated in the female form, and roles were celebrated, and nude bodies were celebrated. It's
like the Venus back here.
Literally. But like, at what point did women stop becoming art? And I feel like that was such a big thing for me when bodies came in front of my camera. Like every single body was totally different. I have not seen two bodies that are the same. How incredible is that? Like how unique, and how sad of us for not celebrating how different and unique that we all are. It's something that every day when I hear someone putting themselves down, it's like, how beautiful is it to exist on this earth in these bodies that are literally just, as Alyssa calls it, our makeup artist, meat suits, carrying our souls around on a floating rock. Like, why not celebrate it? Why not see our unique differences and fall in love with it? We're meant to be celebrated. We are art. She is art. I literally have that tattooed on myself.
Yeah, you do. What is one thing, or all the things that you want every woman to know when she walks in your studio?
I think the first thing that I want people when they walk into my studio is to feel safe. I think my studio kind of holds the same energy that like a hair salon does, right? Like you walk in and you know that there's something that you're working on for yourself, and then you leave all like fresh hair, smelling good, feeling good.
Or Vegas. Like what happens here stays here.
Honestly, like just like a hair salon, you're going to spill sometimes your darkest, deepest secrets and have friends and have a community for the first time, have adult time for the first time in a long time. And the more that you open up to people and connect with them, the more it's going to give back to you. And so that's the first thing that I feel like I want people to know when they come into my space, is that the studio is a welcoming, comfortable girl spot, like your best friend's house. I want it to feel almost like you've been there before, and it's just instant comfort. I always joke when I'm photographing people that when they enter the space and they become one in the set and they're lounging on the couch, I'm like, this is your mansion. This is where you deserve to be, right? It's like, it's just a spot that I want people to feel loved and put themselves first. I always tell women I want them to speak up, and I want to hear their concerns, and I want to hear what they like and they don't like. I want them to practice using their voice in that space. And I just want them to feel empowered when they walk in.
What do you hope the studio and now this podcast help women reclaim?
I hope that this podcast really reaches that woman who's been scared to come in, who's been scared to trust themselves, who's been, afraid to speak up. I really hope that this podcast reaches that woman or that person, just kind of opens their eyes a little bit. If listening to our voices kind of helps heal a little something in you, that's my end goal. If it gives you the courage to come in and have a boudoir shoot, whether with us or somebody else, that's my goal. If it teaches you to care for yourself and make yourself feel worthy and put yourself first in a situation, that is what I care about. I feel like there's so many women out there who were raised like us to put others first. And so my main goal is to teach people to put themselves first and to understand that they're worthy and that they deserve to feel good and that they deserve to be beautiful and that they deserve to feel great.
And be celebrated.
Fuck, we are not celebrated enough.
No.
Like, how many people go through life never having a picture of themselves? That is like the saddest thing in the world to me. And that stems from our mother, I think.
Yeah.
I have 3 photos of my mother the day that I was born, and she's holding me, I think, a selfie with a Snapchat filter on it. Mm-hmm. We look like koala bears or something. And my sister's wedding days.
Yeah. It's like hide in the background of a picture, or I'm going to take the picture. Put someone in
front of them. Yeah. And that really strikes a chord in me. If I was to lose my mother today, I think I have like 6 pictures with her my entire life.
Get in the pictures, ladies.
Yeah. Let them take the pictures, even if you hate it now. I think the biggest thing that I want people to walk away from like this episode right now is, even if you hate the photo that you take in the moment, hold on to it. In the future, I promise you, you're going to look at this with such kinder eyes, and you're going to appreciate it for the moment and that fragment of a second that was captured in your entire life. Just enjoy that. Just be present enough to understand it's more than just your body. Like, there are people looking up to you. There are moments that are making people smile. It is a gift to age. It is a gift to exist on this earth. Hell, it's a gift to wear a bikini at the beach.
Yeah. Insert clip of Moira screaming, take all the naked pictures.
All the naked pictures right now.
You saw a picture of yourself 10 years ago and you were like, ugh, I am so fat. Delete that right now. I would die to be that fat again. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like
you hated yourself at a certain point. Yeah. You wanted to erase that picture, and then you looked back on it 10 years later.
And you were like, damn.
I was fucking hot. And I didn't appreciate it in the moment. So you're hot right now. Appreciate it right now in this moment.
I'm going to challenge everyone.
I love a challenge.
I'm going to challenge everyone in this moment, unless you're driving. I want you to take a selfie of yourself today.
Naked. Let's just spice it up right off the rip. Go home. Take a picture of yourself naked. I want you to stand with confidence, titties to the heaven, nose up like your shit don't stink. And I want you to pop the booty back and take that selfie. No matter how scary it feels right now, just take it.
I mean, I was just going to say, take a picture of yourself.
Oh, well, you can start there. But like, if you've already taken a picture, like, get naked. Don't be shy. In the bottom right-hand corner of your iPhone, there's little dots. You can click it, and there's a little eyeball that hides that photo. You're welcome. So it's not on your camera roll.
Okay, so I have one last question, because this is honestly, I mean, I know we're trying to still figure this out, but this is the burning question that most people are asking us right now. What is next for Hannah Rachael Photography? What is next for you?
This is a really hard question right now. Full disclosure, I feel like I am at a
crossroads.
I am at the end of a road right now, really being able to either turn left or turn right. One direction looks like the Connecticut studio stays open. Heather starts to take over. Hannah flies down to Nashville, Tennessee, follows the love of her life,
makes cameo visits to Connecticut,
starts shooting down in Nashville. And I feel like that is a chaotic, manic, workaholic dream.
That's a new throwing yourself in 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at, buying a house, building a house. It'll be a lot to manage. Yeah. And it's like, do I continue chasing this dream because I've always loved doing it? Or is this the part of my life where I allow myself to slow down a little bit? Do I let little Hannah have a break and close the Connecticut studio, continue with the podcast, because this feels really, really good. The more I talk on here, the more that it feels like this is a new start to something. And continue photographing in rentals and on properties and chasing that dream just a little bit slower. So where we go, I have no fucking clue.
So the answer is still, we don't know.
But there's absolutely more to come.
For sure.
This ain't the end, baby. This ain't the end.
It might just be a little bit more country.
I was always born to be a Southern mama. I know it. Joshua says it to me all the time. My little Southern kicks in. He's like, ooh. There she is.
Well, I think this was an amazing episode diving into the business and who it has created you to be. I know I am blessed, obviously, to love you and to work with you. And I'm honored every day that I get to sit down with you at this microphone. And I think we're creating art right now.
We are.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
This is a new medium for us.
But I am super proud of you, and I'm excited to see whatever direction this takes us. And you.
Well, thanks for having me today. It was really a great time. And for all of our main characters watching, your takeaway today is take that little selfie, fall in love with yourself a little bit more, and start faking the confidence if you need to. I feel like that was a really good point.
Yeah.
Fake the confidence until you understand how worthy you are.
Yeah. But definitely hold that self-worth.
Yeah.
Number one.
Goodbye, main characters.
Until next time.
A quick blessing before we go. May your mirror be kind, your coffee be strong, and your confidence slightly delusional.
You are the main character, the muse, and the movement.
We'll see you next chapter, babe.